Viewer discretion advised. This is for entertainment and education only. This is a word-for-word account of the fifth day of Shaun Diddy Combs' federal trial, as reported by Inner City Press. This story comes straight from Cassie Ventura's testimony in a federal courtroom. She shared shocking details about what she saw in secret underground tunnels at Diddy's Los Angeles mansion. This wasn't about their relationship, his music career, or fame. It was about something much darker and more disturbing. Under oath, Cassie described hidden rooms, drug use, and women wearing masks. Some parts of her story are censored to follow YouTube's rules, but the main details remain unchanged. What Cassie revealed on the fifth day of the trial left everyone in the courtroom stunned. Her words might be the key to uncovering one of the most shocking celebrity trials in recent history. The secrets buried beneath Diddy's empire might finally be exposed. The fifth day of the trial felt different from the start. Reporters arrived earlier than usual, squeezing into their seats with notebooks ready. The public gallery was packed tighter than ever, with people whispering and craning their necks to see the witness stand. Even the jurors, who had been calm and focused all week, seemed more alert, their eyes fixed on the front of the room. There was a heavy, tense feeling in the air, like everyone knew something big was coming. Cassie Ventura was returning to the stand, and everyone sensed her testimony would change everything. Unlike the earlier days, which were emotional but followed a predictable legal routine, this day carried a sense of anticipation. Something major was about to unfold. Cassie walked into the courtroom quietly, flanked by two security guards. Her face looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but she held her head high, her expression calm and determined. She wore a simple dark suit, her hair pulled back, and she avoided looking at the crowd as she took her seat across from the defense team. The judge, a stern older woman, banged her gavel and reminded everyone to stay respectful. "Courtroom. Decorum will be strictly enforced," she said, her voice firm. The room fell silent, and the questioning began. The defense lawyers surprised everyone with their approach. Instead of asking about Cassie's relationship with Diddy, they focused on his Los Angeles mansion. They asked about its layout, how many rooms it had, what kind of security systems were in place, and even how the furniture was arranged. At first, these questions seemed strange, almost like they were about architecture or interior design. Cassie answered calmly, describing the mansion's sprawling rooms, high ceilings, and modern design. But then, one question stopped everything cold. The defense lawyer, a tall man with a sharp voice, leaned forward and asked, "Miss Ventura, have you ever been under the property, in the tunnel?" The courtroom froze. A few people gasped, but quickly stifled themselves. The prosecution jumped up, objecting loudly. "This is irrelevant and speculative," they argued. But the judge raised a hand, allowing the question. Cassie took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Yes," she said softly. That one word changed everything. For months, rumors had swirled about secret tunnels under Diddy's mansion. People posted about it on Reddit, shared anonymous stories online, and even made jokes on TV talk shows. But no one had ever confirmed it, not until this moment. The defense lawyer leaned in closer, his eyes locked on Cassie. "And what exactly did you see when you went down there?" he asked. Cassie paused, her gaze steady but distant, like she was reliving the memory. "I didn't want to go," she began. "He told me to follow him. He said he had something important to show me. He was acting strange, like he was high on something. I was confused and scared, but I followed him anyway." She explained that the entrance wasn't inside the mansion itself. It was outside, hidden behind thick bushes near the pool area. At first glance, it looked like a grassy slope, just part of the landscaping. But under the leaves was a heavy metal hatch, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. What Cassie saw next haunted her. She described walking down cold concrete stairs, then passing through heavy steel doors. The air grew colder the deeper they went, and a faint damp smell filled the space. "It wasn't just a safe room or a basement," she said. "It was something else entirely." Her voice didn't shake as she spoke, which made her words even more chilling. It was like she had rehearsed this moment in her mind for years, preparing herself to tell the truth. The entrance led to a long corridor with bare concrete walls and bright fluorescent lights that buzzed overhead. The sound was strange, almost mechanical, like a generator humming in the distance. The place didn't feel like part of a luxurious mansion. It felt cold and institutional, like a hospital or a prison. Cassie described the walk as disorienting. The hallways twisted and turned. With no windows and no cell phone signal, she felt cut off from the world. Diddy walked ahead of her, mumbling to himself about proving a point. She thought about turning back, but something in his behavior stopped her. He had that look in his eyes, she said. The one that meant, don't argue, just do what I say. They reached a secured door with a keypad lock. Diddy punched in a code, and the door clicked open. Inside was a large room, more like a chamber lit by eerie red lights. There were cameras mounted in the corners, their lenses glinting in the dim glow. The room had leather furniture, but it wasn't cozy or inviting. There was a strange smell, a mix of cleaning chemicals, sweat, and something else Cassie couldn't place. She said the room wasn't for relaxing or entertaining. It felt wrong, like it was built for something dark and secretive. Cassie noticed disturbing details. Shelves lined with props like masks, ropes, oils, and latex outfits. A rack of clothes stood in one corner, the garments looking brand new, like they'd never been worn. Mirrors covered the ceiling and floor, reflecting everything in a disorienting way. The walls were padded with soundproof material, making the room feel even more isolated. It didn't feel like a fantasy or a game, Cassie said. It felt like control, like it was designed to have power over someone. The defense pressed her further. Did you see anyone else down there? They asked. Cassie hesitated, her fingers tightening around the edge of her chair. Yes, she said finally. She described seeing two women in the room, both wearing wigs and masks. One was lying still on a couch, barely moving. The other sat near a tripod with a camera pointed at the couch. They didn't speak or make eye contact. Diddy called them performers, but Cassie wasn't introduced to them. I felt sick, she said. I made an excuse and said I needed to leave. Back upstairs, Cassie locked herself in a bedroom, her heart racing. Hours later, Diddy confronted her. His voice was calm but firm. You didn't see anything, he told her. You don't talk about it. That place is for me, not you. That was the only time she went into the tunnels, but the memory stayed with her. When the lawyer asked for more details about the layout, Cassie's descriptions grew even more unsettling. The tunnels weren't just one room. She saw three others, each stranger than the last. One room was completely dark, with no lights at all, just a bench in the center, and chains bolted to the wall. Another had a full-length mirror and a digital panel next to a bed, its purpose unclear but ominous. The third room was nearly empty, with just a single chair and a box of tangled wires in the corner. Cassie told Diddy she wanted to leave. He didn't argue. He just laughed and said she wasn't ready for what was down there. He called it too real for her. What scared her most was something Diddy whispered before opening the final door. This is where I bring the ones I own. Those words echoed in her mind. As they walked, Cassie heard muffled sounds behind one of the doors, like music playing faintly. But as she listened closer, she realized it wasn't music. It was voices, distorted and unclear. She didn't know who was behind the door, and she didn't want to know. She left the tunnels that night trembling, her clothes carrying the strange smell of the place for hours afterward. In court, Cassie admitted she never told anyone about the tunnels. Not her friends, not her family. I was scared I'd disappear, she said. It felt like if I spoke up, I'd vanish, just like those women in the room. The prosecution asked why she was speaking now, after all these years. It's not just about me anymore, she said, her voice steady but emotional. He's still doing this. If someone else ends up down there and doesn't come back, I couldn't live with myself. The judge called for a short recess, but the courtroom stayed still. No one wanted to move after what they'd just heard. Cassie's words felt like more than testimony. They were a warning to everyone listening. When court resumed, the questions shifted to what happened above ground, but the details were just as disturbing. The defense tried to make Cassie's experiences sound consensual by focusing on a term called freak-offs. This phrase had appeared in text messages between Cassie and Diddy, sometimes in a playful or coded way. But now, the court learned what it really meant. "Can you explain what a freak-off was?" the defense asked. Cassie nodded slightly, her face serious. "It was a planned night, always in," she said. "Sometimes with multiple people, sometimes filmed. He gave us roles and instructions, whether you wanted them or not." The jury was shown old text messages from years ago. In one, Diddy wrote, "Game starts at 10 p.m. No breaking character until 8 a.m. In another, he said, "Bring candles. Grab outfits, I want you in a wig." Cassie explained these weren't one-off events. They happened at least twice a month, sometimes more. Some were spontaneous, but others were planned like business meetings, with Diddy's assistants bringing in people and setting everything up. Cassie admitted she sometimes went along with it. But she made an important point, agreeing while you're on. "I was often high, sometimes so much that I didn't remember what happened." The prosecution stepped in to clarify that these sessions, as Diddy called them in his texts, often took place in luxury hotels or his private homes. They asked if any happened in the tunnels. Cassie swallowed hard, her eyes dropping to the floor. "Yes," she said quietly. She described one event where she was told to wear a latex suit and stay silent the entire night. "I was told I'd be punished if I broke character," she said. There were strangers there, and Diddy never told her their names. "I was supposed to trust him," she said. One text message shown to the jury was especially chilling. It was from Diddy saying, "This time I want control. No safe word." Cassie testified that during these events, she often didn't feel in control of her own body. "Afterward, I felt hollow," she said. "I wasn't sure who I was anymore." She deleted videos and photos from her phone, not because she was ashamed, but because she was terrified of what would happen if she spoke out. The prosecution asked about the role of, "I didn't ask for them. Sometimes I didn't even know what I was taking until I passed out." Diddy or his staff were saying they'd help her relax. Instead, they made her feel foggy, slow, and obedient. She recalled one night waking up on the floor of Diddy's Miami home, covered in sweat, with a camera light still shining in her face. "I didn't know how I got there, or who was in the room," she said. Over time, she started to suspect Diddy was keeping videos of these events. He'd say, "You're mine forever now," she said. "At first I thought it was just talk. Then I realized he was recording things to control me." The defense asked if she ever saw these videos. "Only once," she said. "A clip on his laptop. It showed me with two men. I didn't remember it happening." She begged him to delete it, but he refused. "I keep everything for leverage," he told her. Diddy's control went beyond these events. If Cassie left the house without telling him, he'd call her dozens of times, sometimes 50 or more. If she didn't answer, he'd threaten to ruin her life, her career, everything she had. She also suspected he told people in his circle to stop directly, accusing her of stealing from him. "It was like he cut me off from the outside world," she said. "I was completely dependent on him." At one point, she tried to get help by checking into a luxury rehab disguised as a spa. But Diddy found out. He showed up, told the staff she was just being dramatic, and pressured her to leave. She checked out the next day, feeling defeated. The courtroom was silent as Cassie admitted she tried to quit times, but it was impossible while Diddy was still in her life. "I couldn't escape him," she said. The prosecution asked if she was the only woman involved in these events. Cassie shook her head. "No, there were others," she said. "Sometimes escorts, sometimes women I didn't know, sometimes celebrities. They arrived by car service, often wearing masks. Some were crying when they got there." Cassie didn't ask questions because she was too scared. She mentioned a friend, Tiffany Red, who saw some of what happened. "Tiffany was at my 29th birthday party," Cassie said. "She saw things and told me it wasn't okay. I didn't listen to her." The court looked at an open letter Tiffany wrote years later, published in Rolling Stone, calling out Diddy's behavior. Tiffany tried to speak out, but was silenced. Cassie also said Diddy's assistants were involved. They coordinated the arrival of women, cleaned up afterward, and never seemed surprised. One time, an assistant walked in on them and just said, "Sorry, boss," before leaving. The defense argued that none of this proved anything illegal, but Cassie's words hit the courtroom hard. It wasn't about sex. It was about obedience and submission. He needed to feel untouchable. When asked why so many people stayed silent for so long, her answer was simple and powerful. "Because we thought no one would believe us," she said. "He's Diddy. He had all the power." She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "But now the truth is out, and I'm not the only one ready to speak." The prosecution then turned to the physical abuse, which was even harder to hear. Cassie confirmed that Diddy hurt her many times. It started with small things: grabbing her wrist too hard, pushing her during arguments. He always apologized afterward, promising it would never happen again, but it always did. The jury was shown a photo of a gash above her eyebrow. Cassie said it happened one night when she came home late after eating dinner alone. "He thought I was cheating," she said. "I wasn't." Diddy was drunk, paranoid, and aggressive. She was supposed to pack for a trip, but she was tired and fell asleep on the couch. "I woke up to him screaming," she said. "I don't remember much after that, just the pain." Another time, he kicked her in the back after reading a text from another man, Kid Cudi. Cassie explained that she and Cudi had dated briefly during a break in her relationship with Diddy, but Diddy couldn't let it go. He brought it up constantly, using it to justify his anger and actions. Even when Cassie tried to leave, Diddy found ways to keep her under his control. He'd send messages through her friends or people she trusted, making her feel like she was always being watched. "He made sure I knew he was in charge," she said. When asked why she didn't go to the police, she said, "He had too much power. I didn't think anyone would believe me." Then she shared a story that shocked the courtroom. "One night he threw me off a boat in the Caribbean," she said. "He called me dead weight. I had to swim to shore, and I still went back to him." One juror covered their mouth, visibly shaken. The judge called a brief pause to let the room settle. The final part of Cassie's testimony focused on the infamous Intercontinental Hotel incident the night before her movie premiere. She had worked hard on the film and was excited to celebrate, but Diddy had other plans. He pressured her into another freak-off, saying it would be quick and help them reconnect. Cassie said no at first, but he kept pushing. "He called it a tradition," she said. "He said every big moment needed one of our nights." Eventually, she gave in, hoping to avoid a fight before her big event. At the hotel, she found people already there: 2 women, a male dancer, candles and cameras. She was given a pill to loosen up. She remembered flashes: the dancer in a mask, Diddy filming her, herself in the mirror slurring words she didn't recall saying. Then she blacked out. When she woke up hours later, she was alone, covered in sweat. Diddy had sent her a text: "You were amazing. I'm proud." She didn't know what he meant and was too afraid to ask. She cleaned herself up, hid the bruises under her dress, and walked the red carpet hours later, smiling for the cameras. No one knew what she'd been through. That night changed everything. Something inside Cassie broke. She flew to New York, alone the next morning, and for the first time in years, Diddy didn't follow her. "I felt like I could breathe," she said. In the months that followed, she tried to heal. At first, she pretended none of it happened, telling people she and Diddy just grew apart. But inside, she was falling apart. Therapy helped her piece together memories she'd buried, nights she'd forgotten, people she'd met, rooms she'd been in. She filed a civil lawsuit, not for money but to put the truth on record. "I needed to prove I wasn't crazy," she said. It happened. Her lawsuit opened the floodgates. Other women came forward with similar stories, and soon the FBI raided Diddy's properties, looking for evidence of trafficking and coercion. Rumors spread about tunnels, secret files, and recording devices, but the findings remained sealed. Cassie didn't want to become a symbol or a headline. "I just wanted to be free," she said. But in court, she spoke for herself and for others who had been through Diddy's world. "I want accountability," she said, her voice firm. "Not just for me, but for everyone who went through that house, for everyone who disappeared into those tunnels and never spoke again." When her testimony ended, the courtroom was silent. The judge dismissed the jury for the day, but no one moved right away. Cameras weren't allowed inside, But the world outside knew something monumental had happened. Cassie Ventura didn't just testify. She tore open a hidden world, one protected by money, fame, and silence. The truth was out, and it couldn't be undone. Disguised as stars who will be the next, to rise, break the silence and bring light to the darkest corners of